if without having to refresh this score. Imagine all of us just got disconnected and reconnected because the screen got refreshed for so that we could render another speaker, another participant's icon. That would really suck, right? So React helps us build user interface in user interfaces and small components. Now, if you are building this screen now in raw HTML, you probably would. How many are we on this call right now? We are 17 people. That means you would have to write a div that contains an image tag or that contains like okay, we have a figure and a fig caption, which is for the names, right? And then you have an image tag in there which would or which would show our faces or a video tag in there, and then you would have to repeat that 17 times just to display for all of us. But then you could basically write an image component and then loop through 17 times, right, to display 17 corresponding to each person. Then you also want to display each person's name. So you've decided, you know what, this function I've created now, let me pass in arguments or an array that contains an object that represents the names of the guys. And that's where we come into the component props. So to make sense of this better, maybe I should share my screen and because I found that talking about talking code without code. Can you all see my screen? Yeah, all right, good. All right, so let me see if I can quickly bring up a React REPL.
Akim, why are you smiling?
Mic check. Can you hear me, guys? Can anyone hear me? Okay. Yeah, so Shagu just dropped off. His laptop is having an issue, but he will come back on very soon.
Okay. Wait, can you guys hear me?
That's Adin, but I don't know the person.
Wait.
Divine, what's going on?
FX.
Wait, why is it that I cannot just come to the center screen?
From the center screen.
Wow. Do I have to write code to take me to the center screen? Chidozie, please leave that place now.
It's very
Chidozie, you like publicity very well. Magazine.
You can all see my screen, right? You're not struggling to see it. Somebody has to say something. I can't see you guys anymore.
Yes, I can see your screen.
All right, good. All right, so let's build a few things just to demonstrate. So let's say So what you're seeing here, right, is this is basically JSX. Well, I'm sure you must have come across that on your own. I've just it's a way to write JavaScript in our HTML, and it makes it gives us some flexibility. Okay, so I just created a variable to Unsplash, and I hope that that works. So I'm trying to run my app. Not working. Unsplash random. Okay, good. So we just displayed this image right now, and now um, let's assume we had many images. So basically, we could just say, and we're receiving them from an API, okay? And we received an array of images, right? So instead of having to come and write another image tag, which leads to the other one, we could just simply do something like this. So let's say we have an array of 10 images, right? So let's say const images equals to um, yeah, array 10. I think that's how you write. And then we come here and say images.map, give it a function that returns an image. And our app should refresh. And if nothing is broken, things should work. Let's refresh here. Okay, I think we've broken something. But you get the point. So if this was working properly, why? You know what, I'm just going to add code this. If you notice anything that I'm doing wrong, just say it, because I can't see the chat or anything here once I'm sharing my screen. So yeah, that would help me a lot. Okay, so even though we're getting the same image, but you can see with this little line of code here, we've suddenly been able to, you know what, I'm just going to put some style here and say style. Pattern is 20 pixels all across, all around. Now you would notice that, and let me just say, with 50%. Have I broken anything? Good. All right, you all can see, right? So we just displayed the images right now, and you can see some weird syntax here. This is inline styling in React. You can pass it an object that contains your styles, and written in camel case like JavaScript, and it would automatically make them it will automatically convert them to CSS, the corresponding CSS. Of course, your style should be strings, especially when they are not just numbers. All right, so this is a basic React app. This is better than saying hello world, but you get the point here. And so with this, we can basically componentize what we want. Okay, let's say we want to like take it even further. Let's say we want to have some text for each of these guys here. So let's say our images was an array that contains um, text. So let's say number 1 image 2 image 3 image 4, and let's say image 5. If you've got something more interesting to say, let's put there. Let's say, okay, um, so we can do this and say, you know what? Let's wrap each image in its own div. So we can remove this and we wrap this like this. And put a div in there. Give it some indentation. And then I'm gonna put our div inside of this. Good. Now it's broken because you need to render something at the root of your render function. This is broken now. This wouldn't work. Let me tab it, indent it properly so you can see what's going on here. I know some of you already know these things, and you must be like, "Oh, come on, let's get it to show me the more interesting things." I promise you, I'm going to take you there, but let's get everybody up to speed. Okay, so this is broken, so we need to wrap it at least in. When you render, your render method must return only one element. So let's do this and wrap everything in a div. So oh, okay. So we have this to match div, this. Okay, it says we have some error here. Unterminated JSX. Okay, yes. So you see this div is not a closing div. It's not a closing tag. So there we go. Cool. So suddenly we have, oh, okay. So we have our images, but we don't have any, we can't show the text. So let's say we want the text to show under the image. So we say paragraph. And then inside of our text here, we want to put some text. We still have to put it in brackets because this text are supposed to be read from JavaScript. And when we're mapping, we map, say, our image, or which is supposed to be the text inside. So let's name it text. Okay, and then we put our text in here, and if I miss something, what is wrong? Oh, closing P tag is a capital P. Ta-da! So we have our text in there now, right? Okay, so this is beginning to get very airy and difficult to read. If you're following, you know that it's difficult to see what is in here. So why don't we just look at it now? Each image and the text around it is a component. They go together, right? So we can extract that as a separate component of its own, and then we just come. So let's say const image with text, and so now you can define a component as just a function and just make it render something. So here we will just take this guy out, this div,
Shago,
and put it, yes?
sorry, I just noticed something. I think I know why the image doesn't show different images.
Doesn't show,
Like why it's showing just one image.
okay, why?
So because you were supposed to put like a template literal, then at the back of the API, then slash the images you're looping over when you mapped, but you've already taken it out. So I just tried that and it works.
The images I'm looking over.
Yeah, you mapped before, like before below images.map, then you had the text and all that.
Okay.
Then don't worry, I think I'll just find a way to share my screen to you and just show.
Okay, so in the source there,
Yeah.
the image source. Okay, so
Then
I should
you
make
just
it a
have
complete
your
literal.
those 1, 2, 3 that you had before. You just put at the back of it, and then you have different images on your screen.
You mean if I did something like this and then I put, okay, let me just go back and try to see that. You're saying on line 21?
Yeah, so you have your $sign, and you have the API
Okay.
and slash.
So if I wrap this and to make it a and then I put what slash?
Yeah, slash, then image, or in your case is a text, which will be in a template.
Okay.
Yeah, then you have to change your images from number 1 to just 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, line 7, you have to change number 1 to just 1, and number 2 to just 2. Then you just put the template literal at that text side.
Oh, okay. I see what you're talking about now.
Oh, okay.
I see what you're talking about now. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, so we're using Unsplash's random images.
Yeah, I think you have to change them to like numbers, just pure numbers, not string. Then your text is now still template literal. Do you understand?
My text is what?
Yeah, your text should be the same way your API is, which you put as a template literal.
Oh yeah, thank you. Good. So this is what you're saying. Text. Yep. Okay. Is everything fine? Oh, cool. All right. So thank you so much. That was very helpful. So we can all see that it's showing something different. Maybe we should open in a new tab so we can see separately. Yay. Okay. So suddenly we have made, okay, cool. All right. So we want to move this into its own component, because this is just a very difficult to read, and this is just this tiny little component. So let's abstract it into its own component. So we just take this div out here, and then we come here and say const image with text. or with caption. So this right here is what you call a function component. Don't worry, in the future, all our components in React will be function-based. No, we will leave the class because it can be irritating sometimes, but we just do this, return this. So basically, this function is the same thing as your render method. Oops, my keyboard. All right. So you can see now suddenly we do not have text anymore here, so we can get it as a prop. Now, if I come here and say, okay, this function takes text, React components take an object called the properties object. So you want to destructure it from there. If you do not know how to you obviously know destructuring. Anyway, so you should be able to get that. So now, how do I render this component inside of this one? I just need to do this, say image with text. Now you'll notice that this image tag, it starts with, our component names start with capital letters, because JSX, if you write it with small letters, JSX will React will assume that that is a DOM node, that like a div or a section, which always have which are always in, because you know HTML tags are in small letters, so it would not treat it as a component. It would treat it as a DOM node, and that will be an invalid DOM node, and you just wouldn't know why your stuff isn't working. Oops, image with caption, not text. So let's see. Please work, please work. Yay. Okay, so we can see now we have images here. Cool. What else can we do? So this life is suddenly beautiful. Life is suddenly good. So we can make we can and now if I go on to explain what we've done here, we've created a new component. We have passed data from the parent down to the child. Now this images now could be coming from anywhere, like literally anywhere. So let's say we're getting it. Let's just let's say we're let's see, what can we do? Well, let's just put this as, let's use state here. So a class component can have a state property, and in here we can have images and set it to our array. Or it's not images, so let's call it numbers. And then we set it to our array. Now, what is going on here is quite important to understanding how React works, so do not lose me here. Good. So we have this array of numbers, okay? And now everything is broken again, so we need to tell it, okay, don't read it from outside, read it from state. And it will be fine. We've broken it. What is wrong? Line 23, we have div, we've said this the state, dot
so
numbers.
Numbers.
Thank you for telling us that. Good. So, this person is Sims. Okay, so we're good, right? Cool. But sometimes, like if you go to a page now, let's say we're building an application. I'll show you something like this. Let's say, okay, let's go and wake an Heroku app from sleep. So bear with me. This is going to take a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds. So, okay, so this is what we've done so far, right? Cool. This is world-class app. Um, all right. So notice if I switch to the library tab, you will notice that when you get to the page, it will start loading. Oh, sorry. This is a service worker. Okay, you can see the loading tag on at the bottom. Good. Um, can you show me another one page that you know that does a lot of loading? Um, anybody? Anybody? Page that does fetching. Okay, let's look at YouTube. I think YouTube does that. Oh, look at this. Okay, did you notice the loading a bit, right? Huh? You did notice the loading. Okay, good. So which means the page was rendered first, but there was no data. So he had placeholders while he made API calls to the YouTube servers so I can fetch the data and then rendered it again. Okay, someone saying something. Oh, cool. Yeah. Let's go and see. Yes, there's one site. There's one site that will load forever. Yes, someone helped me out just now. Aha. Oh, come on, I'm not logged in. But you saw that it was loading, right? Before it got the page. If I sign in, what's going on? Which one of these? Good. Look at this. So this is loading. It's fetching data. You see, it's still fetching data. So, which means sometimes when you're but this page has been rendered as a matter of fact, if you were in development mode and inspected it, this page, different parts of this page were rendered multiple times, first without data, then when the API when the backend sent data, the page rendered again. We didn't have to. If you're doing this with normal vanilla JavaScript, you would have to say XML. Okay, we have to do fetch. Then when fetch comes, we'll have to go and grab the DOM node and then populate it ourselves. But with React, that is mostly handled for us. So I'm going to show you a situation. Let's assume we're fetching these numbers from a backend. Okay, so which means when our page is rendered first, these numbers will not be there. Our app will just crash. So what app are you guys building from? That you've been building from Bootcamp? What's it? What's the app you're building from?
So yeah, it's called Send It. It's a it's a parcel logistics application.
Good. Which means sometimes you log into your dashboard, you should be able to see a list of parcels.
Yeah, definitely. Parcels that have been delivered, that still pending. Probably delivered. Yeah, something like that.
Good. So let's say we have pending. So we have pending, a list of pending stuff, right? Then we have delivered, a list of delivered stuff, right? Good. Now, I want to use this to demonstrate something to you. The fact that when we want to check, you can see now, like we are assuming that there's this the state of numbers, and when it tried to render, it ran into problem because this the state of numbers is undefined, and then we're trying to call map on undefined, and then it says cannot read property map of undefined. You can see the error on the screen, right? So usually you also want to know the shape of the data that the API will return to you, so that you can give your UI how do I put it, a default value. So if you're expecting an array, you should have a default value of an empty array. So let's have images for pending and stuff. So let's say H2 pending pictures. There's something called like the React component lifecycle. I know you may have seen that. Okay, let's do this again. Now we're going to run into another problem. So let's say delivered. Let's say you are a photographer and you have to. Now our problem now is that our render is not rendering one thing, it's rendering two root elements, this div and this div. We need to wrap it in another div, right? So that it will just be one child. But then we now have what people call devices. React gives us another component that's called a fragment. So you can just do this, wrap it in a fragment. All right, so we have solved that problem because now we have rendered only one child. Now this is not going to render anything on to the DOM. It's just wrapping it and giving us a way to render multiple children at once. Okay, so let's say pending. In order for our application not to crash, we need to do this pending. We need to say delivered. Okay, now it's not rendering anything. It's going to, when it's done, it will render. Let's see, it should render an empty good. So you can see we have pending pictures, delivered pictures at the edge of the screen. Let's give it some style. So in React, you can do inline styles like this. So just say padding is 20 pixels. Good. All right, good. So you can see pending pictures, delivered pictures, but nothing to show. If we did not put this default values, let's say we just comment these two out because we don't have it here, it's just going to blow up, just going to break and throw errors. Good. So first of all, we want to do this. Now, let's say we are getting this data from the backend. We need to respond when it becomes available. So we use a lifecycle method called components did mount. So we define a component did mount and tell it what it should do. We're just going to do something simple for now. Let's say this. So if you want to update the states, you have to call a function called set state. You can't say, let's even try. Let's say this dot state dot pending equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And go this dot delivered. That's odd. Let's refresh. Good. So we've told it that this dot state dot delivered is an array now, but for some reason it's not looping through. It's not doing what we expect. Initially we initialize it to an empty array, so it knows this map operation doesn't fail. But now we have set it to an array that contains items. You expect that the UI should update, it should fetch the data, but it would not, because we have done what you call mutating states. This the state is still the same memory address, and we just automatically change the value of the content on that memory address. React doesn't know how to track that. So React just looks, State memory address is the same. Okay, we're not changing anything. So if you want to update the state, you have to call set state. So we say this dot set state, and then set state is a function. You can give it an object, and then you give it the part of the state you want to update. So we can say pending equals, and then you can pass it the value you want. And then we could do this, we could just do delivered in line. And say, let's just say 3 items for delivered. This, let's say, same. Now we have to remove this. And you can see automatically things are updating like magic. All right, so there you know you do not update states directly. Okay, you guys give me a second. Okay, we're back. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Good. Okay. All right. So what we've learned now is you can't render multiple things in a render function. If you want multiple root elements, wrap them in a React fragments. You can't change state directly. You must tell it to. You must set the state. And if you are trying to update the state, like let's say we want to add more numbers, what you do is you spread the old one and then add the new one. So as a matter of fact, what I should do here is not what I've done it. Let me even show you how I will do it. Assuming we had some data in here before. Okay, let's even show that. So we have 1, 2, 3. No, 1, 3, 4. Good. In pending. Now, here we had 3 items. Let's say what I wanted was to make sure that pending now has 7 items instead of 3. If we look at our what we have rendered here, so let's go. You see pending 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all. But what we want is 7. What we need to do is say, get the old one, this dot state dot pending. Now this is an array, so we're going to have a nested array. So what we want to do is actually spread the old one. Now we would have 7 things in pending, and we'll still have 3 in delivered. So if let's go to the other tab so we can see. Let's refresh. We're sure. Now you can see we're 7, 1, 2. So first image, second image, third image, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And delivered is your 1, 2, 3. That's all. So that way, like, this is very useful if you're trying to add more things to the UI. Imagine you're doing infinite scroll, you fetch more data, you don't want to override the old one, you just want to update it, add the new one to it, and re-render stuff. So yeah, this is something cool. Let's see, what else can we do here? I don't have an API running or something to show you, but you get the whole point. Okay, so we still have like some time. So maybe I should show you something running on my local machine instead. Okay. So let's VS Code. Any questions, please? This is some things I chat. Any questions? Anybody? No. Oh, okay, just seeing everybody's messages. All right, let's go look for something. Can you see my text editor?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I think let's still play in REPL for a bit. Now let's say you want to let's say we want to have a form, right? Because let's say you want to accept login and log out and blah blah stuff like that. So let's say we want a form. So let's put a form on our page and decide. So let's write that as a separate component, and then we're going to show you something about lifting state up. So or controlling forms. You know what? Why don't we even create a new file here and just say login. So JS. Okay, so let's say import React from. Now this is something you need to always need to import React, even though you might not use it directly. It needs to be in scope, just the way because we need the React runtime to actually do certain things for us. So we need to import it, and then that has to be bundled with the application. That's unnecessary complication, but yeah, down. So let's say const login. We're going to make this a simple form, and it renders oops, a return a form. And inside our form, now we need a way to answer we need to be able to do something when it submits. When it's submitted, so we can say unsubmit, and then we'll give it a function to call. Okay, let's just keep that as a placeholder for now. Let's have an input. The self-closing. In normal HTML, you can do this and fine, but React, you have to ensure that the tag closes. If the tag does not take a child, maybe it doesn't take text or child, you have to close it yourself like this. You can't leave it open. So let's say type equals text. And you know what? Let's say label username, and wrap this in a label tag as well. Copy this, and put another one down here and say password. Okay. Now we need to accept props. Okay, one more thing, submit button. So we have a button of type equals submit. So this will submit our form. Cool, I think everything is fine here. We're not going to spend time styling it. Okay, so we want to pass information from child to parent, parent to child. So for example, the function to submit this form doesn't even know anything. As a matter of fact, this form doesn't even need to know the name of the fields. We could do all of that programmatically so that we can reuse this form in multiple places, maybe for login, sign up, maybe for you adding a what you call, you're supposed to be delivery, right? Is that what we're trying to do? Those pending deliveries or whatever. What did you say you guys are building again?
Building an application called Send It.
Send It. Okay, so for packages, whatever you're trying to send. So we can have a form where we can use one single form, some form component for login, for logout, for uploading, creating an order.
For creating an order.
Yeah, for creating an order, for updating an order. You can, if you can go crazy with it, like just reuse the form all over the place. Sometimes you would have to decide your trade-offs, whether you want it to be extremely generic or you want it to be just generic enough to reuse in some places. But let's stick with this one, and I will show you how to make it a little less tied down to this. So let's say on submit, we call it submit. So where is this submit coming from? It's going to come as a prop. So we say submit. Cool. What else? This input, we want to keep track of the value, right? So we say value. The value also will be username. Interesting. Where is username coming from? It's coming from the parent as well. But you will wonder, why would it come from the parent when we're going to be typing in here and the value should be the value of the form? This is where you begin to understand that in React, you're not actually, when you're dealing React, you're not actually dealing directly with your DOM, with your browser. You're dealing with, everything is stored as a JavaScript object in memory. Like all of our UI, everything is is React keeps track of it using an object, and that's what we are dealing with here. Then React decides when to call document or create element and add it to DOM by itself. So with that knowledge, we can realize, okay, we can just we can all just store all of these values in the parent. Whenever we type in here, we update the parent, and then the parent updates the form, and then the UI changes. Okay, so if we say value is coming from parent, we also need to be able to, how do we tell the parent to update whenever we type? We need to listen to a change event, just like we need to listen to a submit event. So React also gives us this on change. So we tell it to listen to, let's just call it on change. Let's even call this on submit. So let's repeat this here. Now you wonder, okay, how would it know how to change, which one change? We're using this exact same one for both. You would have to sort that out yourself. My
I'm
way
sorry,
of doing that.
your label closing tag is spelled incorrectly.
Ah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good one. Thanks a lot. So, okay. So usually you could just have one for the username that says change password, change username, but I'm just going to stick with putting a name. I like doing this on my fields, and you will soon see why. Name equals password. Cool. So we've sorted out, is there any other thing we need to do? We need to accept data. We need to update, let our parent know that we've updated data, and then we need to be able to submit. I think that's all the form needs to do. So let's export it. So we can say export default login. Now, there's a concept of prop types, like defining the type that this prop is, that this is a function, that this is text, this is text, and our on change to is going to be text, but you figure that one out on your own. It's just, it's good for development, let you know what type of data you're expecting, and React will help you know if you are mistakenly passing the wrong ones to it. There's a package for that, and it's commonly used. You probably will use it in your projects, but now let's go and import this. Okay, so like I said, in React, we often name our components in capital. So it's always good too to name your file the same as the default export of it. It's I think it's the Airbnb standard. So let's import that here. Let's just say login. We're no longer using logo, so let's say login. And here we can come and drop our login. Render. Oh, imagine. So I have a render method in here. We don't need a render. We just need to return. This is not a class, it's a function. You can see it's complaining here. Our button wasn't closed. So if I do this, line 5, submit is not defined. Submit, okay, it should be on submit now. Okay, good, good. So you can see our form at the top of the screen. If we refresh, you can see our form, right?
Yeah. That's your mic.
That is good.
Mic. Then your mic
Hello, everyone. That's distracting. Okay, so we can see our form on the screen now, right? Good. So, but you will notice something. If I type, all right. So you can see I can type in there, but if I try to submit this, nothing will happen. Yeah, nothing is expected to happen anyway. We've not told it to do anything yet. But you noticed it refreshed the screen because that's what forms do when you submit a form. It is expected that it would refresh and try to redirect you um, to the target. So let's put some text in our submit button. Okay, so that should sort that out. Now let's go. Let's say we want to, it's something in my brain would just let me do this. So I'm just going to say style equals. You can use external style sheets in React. I just don't care much for it when I'm doing tutorials like this. Okay, so you can say const form equals. I just want to give some style, so I say display equals flex direction. You can see the way I'm writing all of the CSS properties like they are JavaScript variable names. That's what you need to do when you're using inline React. So I go something like this, main height equals 100 pixels, and I go justify content. Let's say space between. Five. Yeah, whatever. I can't deal. Can't deal at the moment. But yeah, we get the point. So let's say we want to display the text on top of the form, the data. So we go into our app.js, whatever we type, we want to display it. Okay, let's say after the form. So let's put it here and say this dot username. No, this dot state. So username, of course, that's undefined. And then we also have let's put this in a code. Say pre-formatted. Have we broken anything? Everything still seems to be fine. Let me try refreshing this. Good. So we have nothing here. We just, you can see username is empty, password is nothing in there because you're not defining a state. So we need a way to do that. So we say username, empty string. Let's just set that default password. Empty string. I told you, it's always good to initialize data to the right type. So next thing is oh, we want a way to respond whenever the user clicks on this button, right? So when the user clicks on this, we want a way to respond. We want to do something. So let's begin to address these. Let's begin to address these props. We expect 4 props here. So let's go here where we're defining the login component. We need to pass them down. So we say username equals this dot state dot username. Do the same for password. Then when let's break this down to another line. Then we, so we need on change to be whatever we call it here. Let's leave it as an empty for now, and on submit. Good. So let's say let's define our on submit. On submit is a function. So we do this. Now it expects an event. So we tell it to not, in order not to refresh the page, we need to tell it to prevent the default behavior. And then what do we want to do? Let's just say alert form submitted. Yeah. So let's now define our on change, which is a little bit more complex because you would understand why I define the add names there. We also want to tell it that event, well, you might want to prevent, this is not necessary, but I tend to do it, preventing defaults when the form changes because nothing is expected to happen. So now, in order to know which one we are responding to, because it's the same function for both, instead of creating 2 functions, we create one, but we decide that instead what we'll do is say, because what we want, this is what we actually want to do. We just want to set the value there in state. So we can say this dot state, set state, and would say, which type is it? Is it password? Is it username? I can just say event dot target dot name is equal to event dot target dot value, and we have typed event dot target too many times, so we could just as well destructure it from there and say const name value from this, and we can just set states to name, and name equals value. Now, this right here would update the states for both password and username. on change. Okay, so now we have said this dot on change. This dot on submit. All right. Yeah. Stop complaining. We're fine. We've done everything. Oh, REPL stopped. Okay, let's start again. Let's restart it. Now, you would expect that this should work, right? But it wouldn't. The reason is that when we say this dot on change, this dot on change is actually undefined because this would when that this goes to explain to you that we've defined a class here, but we give our class to React, and then React to create an instance of our class, and this will be based on when React will be the instance that React creates. But onChange will not exist on that instance, given the context in which it is created. So for us to ensure that this dot onChange, let me just demonstrate that to you. So if I say this, honestly, I was typing and event of prevent is undefined. Good, thank you. Default. And that should fix it. If I type again, now, cannot, you can see cannot read property set state of undefined. That is because this, at the time that the component is instantiated, isn't referring to this in this component. So the way to deal with this is to say, you create a constructor, and in your constructor, okay, you pass in your props. You say super props, and then you say you now assign those. Now, this constructor is what creates the instance, right? So you have to tell it that this dot onChange should equal the onChange, and then you bind it to this. You may have seen this annoying piece of code in some places. Now you know why you saw them. It's because of the way this is bound in JavaScript. I have an article that goes into it, that explains it a little. I think I should write another one that explains it better. Okay. So now if I type, why doesn't it still work? Oh, Okay. We definitely have an error somewhere, and I can explain why at the moment. So give me a second. Unexpected usage, blah, 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 blah. All right, so guys, look here. You can see that when the value I type in here as password and username automatically is what is bound to the form fields. What we want to do is ensure that we can do that programmatically, not just add coding it in here. So 1 second, can you just, let me see.
Sorry, Shiku.
alert.
Isn't the state supposed to be in the constructor thinking?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah. When you do, once you initialize a constructor, now this isn't always important actually, but in certain instances might be useful because the state is really not an instance property. Well, so let's do this. Still.
Shagun, do you have a name property and a value property on your login components?
Yes. So we have a value of username. Just give me a second. Good. So we can see we all write bugs. So let's come to our on change. Good. Event defaults. Not this one. So go alert. I don't know how to debug on this platform, so let me just do this alert. Interesting. Okay, so we see name, the username. So good. If I go on password, yes. So we're getting that. Okay. So why is it not displaying it? Let me come here. All right. Okay, so
Sorry, Shiku.
yes,
In line 44, where you the structured name and value
yes.
of event dot target, isn't it supposed to be event dot target dot value, like to get the value from the thank you.
Is that's the point of the structure?
Okay.
Event or target value, what I'm trying to get. But instead of writing event or target name, event or target value, I just pluck them out of there. So let me do this. So for example, you can see now if I type in you into the username field, it says username you, which means we're getting the value properly, appropriately. So, okay, I'm just going to.
Shagun, I have one idea. I don't know whether it will work. What if you take out the value property from the input fields because you have value set to value? What if you take that out? You take it work?
No, you can't do that.
Okay.
It's the concept of controlled field. It shows that something is usually when things like this happen, ends up being just one tiny little thing. One second, let me see. So if I click on submit, you can see form submitted. So you can see, okay, let's leave the change handler for a moment. So 1 second. Let me do. Does REPL have a console? Okay. Okay, can you see my screen? Can you see my console?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I did was, after setting state, I asked that hmm, 1 second, code, blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay, 1 second, so I say key equals 1. Not that.
Can you code it out?
Key.
Hey, Shagun. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah. So yeah, it was pretty much the very thing you're doing now as well. I wanted to draw your attention to that. I believe the key error might be born from the mapping. So yeah, I think React can't differentiate between those image tags.
I get you. But take note of what I'm saying here. So we have, if I type here, you can see name. This is the states I'm outputting here. So here, if I go to some reason, it just keeps on eliminating it on subsequent. Oh, good, 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 good. Okay, good. I think I am the cause of our issue. 1 second.
Yeah. Hold on, wait. Hello, Shagun.
Yes.
Shagun.
Yes, I can hear you.
In that name, there has to be an array operator. That name should be an array operator. That name should be an array operator. I've checked that.
Name.
Sorry. This success states name. That name should be an array. That name, yeah, there should be an array.
Oh, thanks so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, so that's a computed property. Ah. Finally, thank you so much.
Okay.
The rest of you, do you understand what just happened? Because what I was doing before, yes, what I was doing before was basically setting the literal key name. So if I say password, you see name was being set to the value.
Okay.
Instead of password. And yeah. So when you this makes it a computed property. So it's going to first of all evaluate the value of name, which is the point of adding a name anyway initially. So my bad. Okay, so you get the point now. So if I say hello, you can see hello is printed here. I don't know why I can't get that to play together. So let's see. Okay, and we're good. So thanks so much. I don't even know who helped me out there. But, and then if we submit this, form submitted. Now this could be, we can even go ahead and, let's say we want to mimic an API call. Now in here, we could come and say, now we want to submit the data to the backend. So we could go, let's mimic an asynchronous operation and just say set timeout. The timeout takes a function, right? So and then the time, and we could go and then give it a timeout, and let's say it takes 3,000 milliseconds, which is 3 seconds. And inside of this, we could just we could do our API call, which would be like fetch to some weird API, and then we give it the data, which is going to be like username will be this dot state, the username. You get the picture. So let's just set timeout and say alert sent. Okay, let's see, alert set, and yeah, that'll be fine for now. Now, if but you want to show something like a loader instead, so we could say this dot set state, and we just say loading is true. Now we can have loading here now and set it to false initially. So here we can wrap this in some curly braces because we want to write JavaScript and say this dot loading. If this dot loading is here, let's just write loading.
Sorry, Shegun, this is the state dot loading, right?
Thank you. Yes. Thanks. Whatever. So you get the point. So this dot state dot loading. If it is truthy, show this. Otherwise, show that. So so here we're saying set loading to true. When the timeout is done, say this dot set state loading back to false. Now, we have to restart again because I'm not logged in, so it keeps on timing me out after some time. So give it a second and let's see. So basically, we've made an API call and then we set our state. What have we done? Set timeout is not defined. Did I get the spelling right? Wrong. Let's just start. Good, so we're right. If we come and say, did we password and send, you can see loading is no longer showing the form. And when we're done, send, and the form is back here. So we just mimicked login. So if you look at the app I showed you earlier, if you go here, if I come and say sugar and then I log in, you can see login, and then when it's done, it redirects me to this page. So we can redirect. So, but we're not going to be going to routing and all of that here. And you can see we've managed all of that state locally. And there's nothing special about set or this dot state. It's just an object. We could as well move this outside of app, and it will still work. The only thing is we need a way to ensure that when we update any part of the state, it will trigger an update in React, and that's why we use set state to update this state. If we want to do that for an external system, we need to define functions that update the slices of state, which is basically what Redux is. That is everything Redux does. They say with users, actions, you must basically they are just functions that tell it how to update the state in a way that it can keep track of. Simple. So we have created class and function components. We have so let's see. What if after our component has been mounted, like we said, okay, when you mount, do something. Usually API calls like this, you want to do them on mounts. What if something changes? Like we got to the, assuming we got to the bottom of this screen, and when we get to the bottom, like Facebook, we fetch more data. We need a way to tell the component that, hey, we have more data. And we have a lifecycle method for that called, we're actually two lifecycle methods you want to use when you're dealing with things like that. One is a static method, static get derived state from props. And the other is component did update. Now you will see some lifecycle methods like in some tutorials, any tutorial that was done before the middle of last year, you'll see something like components will update and components will receive props. Ignore those guys, they're just confusing and they are being removed. So we have these two components, these lifecycle methods. I don't have enough time to go into them. I have stand-ups in 15 minutes. So, but you get the, if let's say we have a, let's say we when we get to the bottom of the page, we fire another API call, we get new data. That new data updates the state, or we receive new props as API as response. We want to change the state in using this component and say, okay, we've got a new prop, use it to update the state, and then render it. And then you return that new slice of state. And the component did update, you tell it how to render whatever you should do with that new state. Anyway, before we wrap up, any questions? Anything? Do you all get the? Oh, someone asked if there are other lifecycle methods commonly used. Yes. Then we also have component will on mount. So we say component will on mount. This you can see. Let's say we had event listeners, and we want to, and you're moving between one component, between two components, between two pages. Okay, first of all, you activate your mic. I want to ask a question. Which of you has built an app with raw HTML and JavaScript? Okay, it that one. Did you used to have event listeners?
Oh yeah. I set a couple of event listeners on some buttons, and yeah, that was how I was able to fetch and update maybe some, if I'm allowed to call them components.
Okay, good. Now, did you remove your event listeners?
Yeah, I did. I had to.
You had to?
Yeah, so like I built some components that were accordions. So I realized that every time like I fetched again. So some of those nodes would have, maybe I'll click on one node and then it will trigger to event listeners. And then at some point in time, some nodes wouldn't even, so because of, those nodes were existing, and then every time I'm recreating, the way I built it, I'm looping through, I'm recreating the nodes. It was creating like a backlash. My code was becoming, my nodes were becoming responsive. So sometimes I would have to remove my nodes and also remove all my event listeners. So when you click on that button, it removes event listeners if they are available, then it creates a new one. So I
Okay,
had to
so you said something at some point everything became unresponsive.
yeah.
Now that's what the effect of what you call a memory leak. When you are binding event listeners, basically you're telling the browser, okay, we have some memory, keep some memory here. We're going to do some work here, and it just keeps on piling. If you build a normal website that page refreshes, after every refresh, all the old event listeners are gone. Once the page is unloaded, they're gone. So usually, you don't really bother about. You don't usually care much for removing event listeners. But in a single page app that could be open on your page for weeks and you just keep on moving between pages and handling events and responding to user interaction, you need to ensure that event listeners are removed when you're done with a particular component or page. So like when you switch between one page to another, you're switching between components. That means the old component is actually being removed from the page. But the event listeners for that component are still being held onto by the browser. So that's why we have the component wheel or mouse that, the component is about to be removed. All the event listeners that we're listening to on this page, let us remove them now. Otherwise, you would have moved away from the page, yet the event listeners will still be active. When you come back to that page, a new set of event listeners will be created. And so you just keep on piling up till the browser crashes. So that's why you have the component will amount. Then you also have the component did catch and get the right state from error. Those are pretty new. People don't, and you should go on and check them out yourself. Okay.
Okay.
I asked
good stuff.
Any questions? Any questions? Because I want to run.
Okay. So, would we be having subsequent sessions, and when will those sessions be coming on?
Okay. Tomorrow, Emily is going to be taking you on setting up Webpack. So she was on the call, but she had to leave early.
Okay.
She left like an hour ago. Somebody will take you on how to test UI. I'm sure you've tested. You know how to test your server-side application, but then talk to you about general testing principles, what to test for, what to not waste your time on. You guys already gave some suggestions. The thing is, everyone is constrained for time. Like I said, like I have stand-ups right now. And before even coming, honestly, before this session, I actually created an app that I was going to go through it, but then
No, but then it's better. He has got off stage. But then,
yeah, I guess.